Welcome back to exploring the U.S.-Mexico border in Google Earth. We last stopped around El Paso area, and so we're going to go right back to where we were, and we're just going to go right along this part of the border. I think when we stopped last, we had pretty much nothing going on here, just lots of desert out in the middle of nowhere, and it's pretty much nothing exciting going on at this point in time. Hoping we get into Texas, it'll be a little bit more interesting. We'll see. So I don't have any almonds this time. Got coffee though. Oh, it's super hot, so wait for that thing to cool down a little bit. Looks like we got another U.S. Customs station down here. New Mexico side looks like another solar panel farm. That's kind of interesting. We saw a couple of those in our last video. Definitely super unique, very cool. I'm not sure what this is right here. Just a roadway. Now, generally the thing that we've seen, as long as we've been observing the physical barriers here, is that there's usually a small fence. And on the California side, there was a double fence, but then the fences only come up whenever there's a populated area, like where we can see this on the Mexico side right here, that there's a lot of population. And then as soon as we hit mountains like this, there's no fence, no barrier or anything like that. So just for the sake of pointing that out, because we have been the whole time that we've been doing this. That's generally the pattern here, so we have been skipping out a little bit. So let's zoom out here and see where we're actually at. Wow, big mountain range over here. It looks like we're in El Paso right here. So here's the University of Texas at El Paso. Over here on the left, right, and then not that far from it, looks like we got Highway 10 on the left here. Pretty much nothing there until you hop into Mexico. So really not a lot going on in terms of barrier. Looks like it's that road, and then I can't tell if there's a distinct fence or anything like that. Looks like it's pretty clear cut just using that road there maybe. Okay, here I see a little bit of fence. It's a little bit farther back, but this has some significant gaps in it. And I guess this is the Rio Grande River right here. We can see with our layers there. And wow, there's a elementary school looking right out over into that other country. Interesting. There we go. We got a stadium over here on two stadiums on either side. Looking like we got some more trees here. Just a little bit more civilization than we have had, for sure. Let's go ahead and just sort of see the cityscape. Interesting. I'm not sure what this is. Wow, this is a interesting monument here or something. I'm not sure what this is, to be honest with you. It looks like a piece of modern art. This is Monumento el Mexicana. I'm really bad at saying anything that's not in English, but that's really cool. Wow, never really seen anything like that. Yeah, but that's on the Mexico side. You can see that very clearly from El Paso. Looks like probably not anywhere in El Paso, but at least from this side of the tracks. But moving right along here, we have a long ways to go. We're just gonna keep on speeding. So we're gonna assume that all through El Paso they have the same fence here, and you can see a kind of distinct line right next to the actual border there. Split up here with this highway, 375. You can see the border control checkpoints. We've seen barriers there, and those interesting. I think the whole time that we've actually been observing this border area, that maybe since California all the way over to Texas right now, I think we've maybe seen about 8 or 9 facilities. So there doesn't appear to be a whole lot. Still a good amount. I'm not sure how much they really need. Right here is interesting to see. Just the green extends a lot onto the U.S. side and is sort of close. It's interesting. I wonder if they're using the same water infrastructure or how that works right there. And then it's kind of the opposite over here. As you can see, Mexico has the majority of the farmland, and the U.S. Does not. But zooming out even more and giving an even bigger picture, you see, wow, there's a huge mountain range over here. Very cool. And we're just gonna head right along. I'm gonna assume that we're still in kind of a desolate situation when it comes to fence and everything, because we're starting to get into a more remote location, and so it doesn't look like there's much of a barrier, but let's see if we can find anything and we get along here. Some of this, if there's a river, yeah, Rio Grande, yeah, there's seems to be a pattern of using any sort of waterway, no matter how big or deep, as a barrier here. That's just kind of an observation there. Wow, I think yeah, that's mostly just green. This is the water's a little bit wider, a little bit more here. Definitely a lot greener here, right next to the river. Probably that's like a interesting patch of imagery right there. Just looks a lot extra white here. Let's zoom out a little bit. Just kind of see, wow, this is definitely rugged. Just if you zoom out even more, we can see in our places we got nothing for miles. Definitely on the Mexican side, but definitely on the Texas side as well. Now that we've kind of already gotten a good idea of what defines the border, we're not going to look too closely in at what is there anymore, unless the area that we're in changes drastically. As we can see here, the only barrier between the U.S. and Mexico is the Rio Grande, and that's pretty clear, except for, we're going to zoom in and look at a couple different things. Last time we found a house that was in the middle of nowhere, just by itself. It was actually right on the Mexican border, its backyard. You could have walked out the door about 10 feet, and you would have been in Mexico. Or you would have been in the U.S. The house was actually on the Mexican side. It was very unique. Never really heard of anything like that before. This little town right here, this is right on the edge. It's different, because these people, they don't walk into their backyard and literally have half their driveway going into that. And then the roads were clearly defined, but they were dirt roads. So check that first video out. Very unique, for sure. As you can see here, the border, I believe that this border, clearly defined by one of our purchases that we made. I forgot which purchase it was. I'm not a super history buff at this moment here. But whenever we bought or took or whatever land from whoever was in possession of it, I forgot who all owned this area. I think the French and the Spanish had all owned this at some point in time before the U.S. ever did. So I think that whenever this was cut, they said, hey, you guys get to have the land, all this land up to the Rio Grande, we'll just call it get there, because that was a clear border. But a lot of these other areas, you don't have the clear border. And you can see there's kind of some interesting stuff going on here. I'm going to peek back in here just every now and then to see if we can find any sort of clear-cut, defined fence or anything like that. But overall, it just appears that we have a road. We have a road over here to the left. It's on the U.S. side. And we have some crossings, right? But it's really not much. We don't have much going on in terms of any physical man-made separators here. And also my imagery is not doing the best at loading in it. We are well into Texas now, and that actually has, I believe, the majority of the U.S.-Mexico border is in Texas, and this fall under their, state border actually. So this is not just a state border, but it's also a federal border. So that's kind of an interesting concept there. There are definitely states that share border with other countries, but that's unique because not every state shares a border with another country. I'm not sure how many do, but I think we have, I think about 4 in the south: California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. And then we probably have another 10 or so, maybe not 10, maybe like another 6 that share a border with Canada. That's about a quarter. So that's interesting. Gonna zoom down here a little bit more, try to get something to pop up. Mentioned before, and in some of my other videos, imagery does not always load great for areas that Google doesn't care to take pictures of. And there's nothing really going on here, so it's not like they have a huge vested interest in keeping a really accurate record of it. But we looked and we didn't see much. We were right here by some looks maybe just more like some smaller town right here on the border. Yeah, not much going on. Let's see the scan. Sort of look at this one here and everything. This is a cool geographical feature. This is a canyon. Pretty unique. Kind of some cliffs forming here on the Mexican side. There's a national park up here, Big Bend National Park, very close to that. And interestingly enough, there's just really nothing going on down here. Can't see any civilization, but I mean, this area is definitely super. What's the word for it? Just super rocky, mountainous. Not much going on. And there's Rio Grande. Still here, I think it dries up for some aspect of it, or it just gets shallower or more distinct in certain areas. But the river basin is still defined, And interestingly enough, that looks like another set of a river coming in from the U.S. feeding into that. And I wonder if this is the rest of Texas on its way out. If this is how it is all the way over to the Gulf, that would be really interesting. There's a Seminole Canyon historic site. Oh wow, we're getting into some water over here. Wow, look at that. It's a reservoir and some stuff that kind of looks a little bit like some wetlands. Not really, but not specifically, but not like Florida, not like the Everglades, whatever. The Everglades. We got some little urban areas. Let's do check in and see if there's just any barrier down here. Now you can see in the bottom right hand corner the speed at which we're loading. Not very quick, and we're only at 46-50%. Doesn't seem to want to load in too much. much, but let's see if we can get it up to 100. I think it'll take a long time, but we might be able to get somewhere. Yeah, the Rio Grande, I think no one's really worried about that. And then here's an interesting thing, just if there were to be a barrier, it looks like on the U.S. side of the Rio Grande, we have houses here, so the question of building a barrier here is, do we put it, if it were to be built, just theoretically, once again, no real agenda for this, does it go on the Mexican side? Is it built there? Or is it built on the U.S. side? And if it is, it would kind of cut off all these houses. So, that's U.S. property, so that is unique. Or do you have to tell all the people to move, which is also kind of a crazy move. As well, there's, what's that, eminent domain that government has the ability to say, hey, you have to move, what happens. Also, this is really curvy, right? So I think the smart move in most construction is to not follow crazy curves. I'm not sure if that really holds true, because I'm pretty sure the Great Wall of China had a ton of curves. But if you were to build some sort of physical wall barrier or something like this, how would it work? Would it be better to lose some land, leave it outside the wall, so to speak? Even though that wouldn't be defining our legal barrier, we would still have land that would essentially be unusable because it would be outside the barrier. How do you essentially navigate that? Definitely a unique set of problems here. You guys have a lot of farmland that you'd be cutting through as well. So there's a ton, definitely a ton of land to grab. There'd be a ton of land that you'd have to buy from people. Lots of eminent domain you have to run through. Right here's Eagle Pass, right? Here we have the Rio Grande. Probably another checkpoint, even though it doesn't say it. Probably a U.S. Customs checkpoint right here, or that might be a commercial entry port only. I'm not sure. Let's zoom out and get an idea of where we're at right here. This is really, really far South Texas. I don't think I've definitely never been here, and it's very unique. Looks pretty nice, actually. Not too dry, not too desert, not too lush either. So. Once again, we got some of those crop circles, not like crop circles like like people say that spaceships from space make, but circles for growing crops. Those are unique. Those are really cool to see. Shows that agriculture is definitely booming in this area. We're on the Mexican side and on the U.S. side. It's funny how they kind of alternate. I wonder if some farms, if they own land on both sides, what they do. Here it would be pretty hard to do that because you don't have very many bridges. You'd have to go back and forth. That would be kind of weird. But right here it looks like, I'm not sure what this is, but some sort of crossing here. Looks like some sort of commercial checkpoint, judging by the buildings here. Looks like we have some semi-trucks down here. It's unique, but yeah, this river is not too wide, and it's been about this width since we've been looking at it. And so let me get 86 meters, 200, 300 feet. That's not a crazy distance, to be honest. And that's been about the width of it the whole time we've been out. Let's zoom all the way out and see where we're at now. Alright, we're coming into Highway 35 in Laredo. That's another border town. I think we've been through El Paso, Laredo, Eagle Peak. I think that was another one that we just passed through. Eagle something. And it looks like the river has just been the barrier for the entirety of it. We did get a measurement of that, 86 meters. To put that in perspective, that's about, if you know, like a swimming pool, that's about like 3 swimming pool lengths, I think. Usually, like a swimming pool at a gym is probably Olympic size. It's about like 25 meters. So if you do a couple laps in that, you see, except for right here, this is probably this is definitely significantly larger. But that's the size of the barrier that we have here. It doesn't look like we have any fence here. Here's Rio Grande, La Puerta. Santa Cruz. And then the Mexican city of Reynosa. Santa Ana National Wildlife Refuge. I wonder what sort of wildlife you can find out here. Not something I'm going to look into too deep right here, but pretty unique. Alright, and just super wavy here. A lot of farmland on both sides bordering everything. Very, very unique. And let's see, I'm going to zoom out again and see how close we are to the Gulf. Yeah, we're getting really close, so we definitely made better time on this part of it than we did before. I think it was easier here. Pretty sure we can confirm that almost 80% of the Texas-U.S.-Mexico border has no physical barrier beside the landforms that are there. And on this border, so much is kept to the landforms themselves to do the work of defining that area. Right, this river is not too big, not too small. Dry in some areas mountains. You know, remove the ability to put a wall in there. Definitely interesting. So here we can see one of the bigger last cities here, Brownsville, Las Fuentes, and Matamoros. Yep, everything is pretty much up to the river there. And so let's see one of our closest points here. Looks like we're getting some good 3D imagery to load in here. There's another U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Wow, look at those cars back up. Tell you what, it must be a busy place. Must be. Oh, here we go. We have some sort of fence here. Alright. I do see that. So it looks like in these urban areas they have put in a fence. So I think I can stand corrected on that a bit. That most of these urban areas do in fact have some sort of physical barrier on top of the river. But in the more remote areas, they don't have it. So that is it's definitely some new information. It's funny how all this stuff is cut in little rings and very unique shapes over here. And then over on the US side, it appears to be a little bit more symmetrical. Except for this area, that's definitely unique. It's an E, big old E. Interesting. Alright, and we're about to be at the end here. we're going to look down here. This area appears to be, yeah, state park. Pretty sure there's no border here, but let's check in and see what this is about. Looks like we just have a road here. This appears to be like salt water. Saltwater Wildlife Management Area. It's right here, and it looks like it has some difference. That's probably what that is. But yeah, we come over here to the end of the Rio Grande. Look down, look quite a bit different. I think here, right? Because if you saw in the other video, there was a clear border extending out into the ocean fence on the California side, but you do not see that over here on the Gulf side. So that is it, folks. We have gone over the entire U.S.-Mexico border. We have seen all of it. We've gotten to see the differences. We've gotten to see what sort of current barrier is there, the physical attributes and stuff. A lot of cool things. Definitely check out the first video if you like that. Also, I have lots of stuff for you in a link in the description, things that you can get. We got free stocks, lots of awesome referral programs, things that, you know, just give you like free money. Like I said, there's free stocks and some other stuff. Definitely some other cool pieces of software that I promote. Definitely go ahead and check out Google Earth. You just go to google.com/earth. Very cool thing to check out and just explore. Thank you for watching so much, and have a great week.